Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. I am always, I love starting this podcast by saying thank you. I feel so very blessed with this podcast. My objective was really to simplify spirituality, to guide people on their spiritual journey, and I was clearly doing that by the message we received. So thank you. My name is Nimesh Radia. I'm your host. I'm an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And I love what I get to do. I get to guide people to try and shine their light, to become their authentic selves. I really do feel we're being pushed in many different ways to become authentic, to let go of our old selves and truly become our new selves. So I love guiding people to do that. Also, with this podcast, I get to interview some exciting, amazing people. So I'm looking forward to talking to today's guest, who has been one of our first spiritual mentor clients many years ago and has a major impact on us. So I'm looking forward to that. But before that, I would love to introduce my co-host. This podcast wouldn't be where it is today without the amazing, the beautiful, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire, Stacey Brown. Stacey, you want to introduce yourself? You know, I got to do it.
Yeah. And every time I laugh, and I try to tell myself not to, because you do it every time, but I laugh every time anyway.
It's good to laugh.
Hi, friends. It's good to be back with you. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world. I'm also an Akashic record reader, spiritual coach and mentor, podcast co-host, and a recently published author. My book, Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender, is available on Amazon and Audible. Excited to be here.
Thank you, Stace. And Barney, we just talked about this before. Before we first started working together in September 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful to see how far you've come. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Nimesh. Hi, my name is Barney. I run a camping and glamping site in the north of England in Yorkshire. And I live with my two beautiful boys, Felix and Rufus. And I've been on quite a journey for the last few years, really sort of instigated by you two lovely people. So thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm very privileged.
Thank you, Barney. We're excited to have you here. So, I talk a lot about the current energy and what's happening on the planet, and what's your take on the current energy? And you interact with a lot of people on the camping, the glamping site.
Yeah.
What's your take on how do you feel what's happening on the planet right now?
I think there's quite a lot of people, because I see a lot of people, like you say, thousands a year come to stay on the campsite. And I feel that, myself included, a lot of people are sort of looking for, a kind of bit uncertain, and I think they're looking for a space to connect and ground. They maybe don't realise that's what they need, but I think there's definitely an increase in numbers of people looking for that. And the space that I created, the campsite 12 years ago, back in 2012, there's definitely more over the years. And the people that have, my guests, my clients that have come and stayed, they seem to just appreciate the space, the openness, the eco nature vibe of the place. And I think a lot of people maybe don't really understand what's going on. And I just think I find it really sort of gratifying to be able to offer a space for people to reconnect with, like I say, nature and each other, really. But there's definitely is a lot going on energetically. I mean, we've had eclipses and there's comets flying around, and there's a full moon next week, and there's definitely a lot going on at the moment. And I think maybe a lot of people don't quite understand, this energy. There's this sort of jumpy energy around at the moment. So I'm just pleased I can offer some space for people just to have a bit of a reset, really.
I love that. And we'll talk more about, the energy of the land in Baxby Manor and kind of what you created there as we get into this podcast. I'd love for you to talk more about your kind of journey. I mean, you started working with us, I said, over 2 years ago, actually, just just past the 2-year anniversary. How crazy is that? You started with the individual mentoring program, kind of the 12-week program that both me and Stacey run.
Yeah.
And then you also did the group program. But I'd love for you to share more about your spiritual journey, kind of what you've been through and what you've experienced over the last couple of years.
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. So I've kind of always had a bit of an interest. Well, it started with my parents, I guess. When I was sort of at primary school, age about 9, 10, my grandmother on my mum's side passed, and my parents sort of got into going joined a spiritual church. I mean, I was literally like 9, 10 years old, so I mean, I just knew they went somewhere every other Thursday night or whatever, and I used to be babysat by my aunt at the time. But the people in the circle at the time always used to always sort of home in on me and say, "Oh, your son's a very old soul, he's a very old soul." And it didn't mean anything to me at the time, being 9, 10 years old. But I guess it was sort of instilled from me from that age. But then, it didn't mean anything at the time, and not really probably until a couple of life-changing events in my life probably really sort of kicked it off. The first being in, I think it was about 2008, 9. I was diagnosed with colitis, which is like an inflammatory bowel disease. I went through the whole reel of medication, starting at sort of low-dose stuff, right up to stuff where they were talking about putting me on IV drips, steroids, and really nasty immunosuppressants, and went through all that. Anyway, nothing worked, and I ended up being rushed into hospital for an emergency operation to have the whole of my large intestine, my colon, removed. I was told that if I had my colon with me for another 24, 40 hours, I'd probably be dead. So didn't really have a lot of choice in that one. So that was one kind of thing that sort of grounded me a little bit, and I was a bit like, okay. And then kind of fast forward a couple of years, I did some traveling and went to Australia and worked in various places around the world, meeting all sorts of different people and cultures and things. But I always had this sort of yearning to return home. Admittedly, I went to Australia with a one-way ticket with the intention of not coming back, because England sucked and it was boring and the weather's terrible and I don't want to go back there. So I wasn't going to come back. But about just under a year later, I had this sort of burning desire or pull, I guess, to return home and create a space. At the time, I didn't know it was to be a healing space. I just thought I had this idea to set up a campsite, having lived in a tent in Australia for a year and got a few ideas and things. So yeah, I built the hideaway at Baxby Manor on our family farm, which has been in our family for, I think I'm the fourth or fifth. My kids are the fifth generation. So there's quite a lot of ancestral history there and things, and it was built in 1308 too, so it's historically as well. It's been around a while. So yeah, I built the campsite with my then wife Holly, who was a paramedic for the NHS. We built the campsite, opened in 2012 on the Queen's Jubilee, actually June 1st, 2012. Didn't really know what I was doing, to be fair. I didn't. Other than living in a tent in Australia, that's about the extent of my camping expertise, or other than going on camping holidays with my parents to like France and things. So I wasn't an expert, but I'd done a lot of research and opened the campsite, and kind of stumbled my way through, learnt a lot in the first few years. And then in 2016, my wife Holly, who had in the past suffered with mental health, and after the birth of our second son, really started struggling with her mental health, to the point where she was sectioned a couple of times, had attempted to take her own life a couple of times, and it sort of culminated in her actually taking her life just before Christmas in 2016. And at the time, our two boys Rufus was 15 months old, and Felix was 4. So suddenly I was sort of thrust into this very different life of running a business that was really still in its infancy, and then being a single parent to two boys, which was somewhat challenging. I mean, people say, I don't know, how did you do it? And I kind of say, well, you don't really have a choice. You just got to get on with it, which is what I did. And I think that was really, I found a letter actually that my wife Holly wrote, addressed to the boys, obviously just before she passed. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it said something along the lines of, she apologised for having to leave them, and that she will always be their guiding lights, and she'll always be with them and helping them along in their lives and things. And I never knew that Holly was remotely spiritual or anything at all. We never had that discussion, never discussed spirituality. So I was quite surprised to find this letter that she'd written to the boys. So then I kind of thought, then it reminded me of what my parents had told me when I was younger about being an old soul. And I just sort of started thinking, and there's kind of coincidences that kind of kept happening. And I just thought, as most people do, brush it off. It's just a trick of the light. It's just the wind. It's just whatever it is. But anyway, I kind of became intrigued, and I remember one day in September, after the sort of busy summer season had finished, in 2022, just sitting on the end of my bed, and I started scrolling through podcasts looking for spirituality, and just I didn't know what I was doing. I think I Google searched what is an old soul or something like that, and I went down the rabbit hole. And long story short, I found your podcast, and that's kind of where our journey began.
Yeah, I love it. And I seem to remember you were looking for more of a British podcast rather than an American
I just
one.
kind of brushed out. I thought you might pick up on that.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
I could see Stacey going, yeah, okay. So I'm going to have to, if I don't say this, Stacey or Nimesh will say this. So I was going through the podcast, and I'd like play each one, and they're all like Americans, and I was like, is there anyone here that's British? It's like, just someone that's British. It's all American, and Brits are kind of, well, Brits are Brits, aren't they? They kind of stiff upper lip and very, best foot forward and all that kind of thing, where Americans just go straight into it. And I was a bit not ready for like going straight into the whole, spiritual thing. And I was a bit like, oh. So anyway, I was scrolling through, and then came across Spiritual Journey, and your voice popped up, and I was like, oh, British. So I listened to, I think, the very first episode, and then at the end, obviously, you mentioned about the other things you do with your mentorship and readings, and the word Akashic, which I had no Akashic readings. I had never heard of that before, and I was like, I don't know what that is. So anyway, I believe I then contacted you, Nims, and sort of gave you a bit of a hello, this is me, and what have you, and then we had a discovery call. Was it? I can't remember if it was just with you actually to start with, or was it with both?
I think what happened, it was just with me, and I think Stace just happened to be here, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So, and I think so. So we were talking, and then as Stace was here, I was like, "Well, if you want to work with both of us, let me introduce you to Stace." And there you go.
And then there's American, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole other story to that too, which we'll leave for another day.
Well, yeah, which I'm sure we'll get into. So tell us about the spiritual part of your journey, because obviously, as you said, you were, you knew your old soul and whatever that meant.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how has that evolved? Because I've seen you shift and change so much over the time.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys kind of opened me up to a lot of things I didn't realize really. We started on the mentorship program, and I think one of the questions that still resonates with me now is, what is your why? And I still don't think I've even given an answer to that 2 years later, but it made me realize that the campsite that I created isn't just a campsite to earn money to pay the bills. I mean, obviously that's what a lot of people have jobs for, but it made me realize that I was there for more than just that. I started realizing that the space I've created is for people to come, as I said earlier, to actually heal. And I know I remember you asking me, what are your gifts? And I always thought gifts were some magical power, like, I can levitate or I can read people's minds or things, but I was like, well, it's not actually that. It's I have a healing gift. I can heal people, but not in a way, Jesus laying my hands on someone and curing cancer, as in healing people, coming to a space to heal them from their busy, chaotic lives that they might lead, and just have that space to sort of free their minds a bit, really. And so yeah, it was an awful lot of learning, and I'm still learning and discovering a lot about myself now. I've discovered things, and you are very good at pushing me, Nims, to maybe explore things I don't want to, or it would be beneficial.
I could feel your nervousness in this conversation a little bit, actually. It's bringing me back.
A lot of ancestral stuff, money being one of the main ones, which I believe is ancestral. I think possibly my mum's side mainly, but possibly my father's side as well. So an awful lot of stuff. I don't know what you thought was probably that. I think that was probably one of the main things. One of the main things actually was I, to a certain extent, still do, but I remember you saying to me, what other people think of you is not your beeping problem. And I remember thinking, and I used to think or worry a lot about what the people thought of me and how I'm seen by the people. And I know that's something my parents do, and I see it now really quite clearly in them. I think I still am a little bit, but nowhere near as much as I used to be. Which was very, when that kind of light bulb moment kind of clicked with me, it was very releasing. And I was like, yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter what the people think of me. I don't care. It took a little while to shrug that off. And I say I haven't quite completely done it yet, but I definitely feel a lot freer than I did 2 years ago, 18 months ago.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, awareness is always the first thing, right? The fact that you're aware that you still do it a little bit, but it's a lot less, is powerful, right?
Yeah, I think, being aware. So being aware of things is the first big step, really. And it's not a magic, you flick a switch and you're suddenly transformed into something or someone else. It's just an ongoing journey. The awareness is definitely the first part. And like I say, even if you don't necessarily change or adapt or whatever you want to call it, then if you're just aware of these things, it makes a huge difference. And it certainly did with me. And just having conversations with friends and family about the campsite and work, because it's very easy to get drawn into just the mundane running of a business and having to pay this bill or having to deal with this customer that's not happy about something that's really not very significant, but it obviously is to them, and not just getting so like, just remembering the reason that I created the space for other people, but also for myself too. So yeah, the awareness is really important, definitely.
So how do you navigate going through so much, your health issues, the loss of your wife, being a single parent, having a new business? How do you go through all of that and come out the other side believing in something bigger instead of being bitter?
I think you have a choice. You can either be resentful, bitter, or you can choose to look at something, take the passing of my wife. You can look at it and say the universe is mean, horrible, and it's got it in for me. And then you can just wallow in self-pity or whatever. But that's not going to change. I can't bring my wife back. I can't bring my girl back. And anything else that anyone has been through, those things have happened. So my positive, or my outlook, is, okay, this is what's happened. At the time, for me, my priority was my two boys. They were the main priority. And I thought to myself, okay, so I could really lose my cool right now. I just lost my wife, mother, my sons. I could just completely lose the plot right now, which would have been probably, people would have probably thought, I'm not surprised, But because I had the two boys to focus on and had a business to focus on, I had more than enough on my plate just to, initially anyway, to focus on and keep going. I had, two very good reasons to keep going. And that's definitely what got me through the first sort of stage of grieving. I probably put myself into work more than I should, and probably still do. But it's, yeah, I think I just thought, I have a choice now. I can deal with the hand I've been dealt, or and do it in the most positive, loving, caring way that I can for myself, and my boys, and a few people, sort of on Holly's side of family, couldn't quite understand that. They couldn't understand why I wasn't like them. And yes, they'd lost their daughter, their sister, whatever. But they couldn't really come to grips with the fact that I'm putting myself into the business and trying to keep my business going whilst trying to grieve at the same time and look after the two boys. And I guess I thought, well, if I don't have the business, I can't look after them. My health, obviously, I need to be. If I'm not healthy, I can't. What use am I to my two boys? So I had to make myself a priority first and foremost, and so I could look after my boys. Mm-hmm. So I think from a sort of spiritual perspective, I think the journey that I've been on has certainly helped with that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, whether you're a believer of everything happens for a reason or not, I don't know. I believe it does. I think some people find that maybe hard to believe, but I think everything does happen for a reason. And this is, my journey. This is my journey, and this is what I was destined to do. And I just look at it that way. I think it's just try and be positive about everything. I guess I'm a glass half full kind of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Has there been a time where you were really angry with God, with Source, with you guys, and just how did that feel?
I don't. There've been times when, it's funny you asked me that, actually, Nims, because I remember my mum saying to me, not all that long ago, a couple of years back or so, I remember her saying to me, "Did you not get really cross and angry for Holly leaving you?" Because I did. I was really off that, she's left you to bring up two boys on your own. But I don't think I really had time to. I don't think I gave myself time to be cross. I think I just thrust myself into work and thinking, "Oh my gosh, I've got to do this. I've got to look at me. I've got these two boys." And I think I probably used the weight of the world on my shoulders at the time to get me through that. So I never really took the time to, whatever, throw my fist into a wall and shout and scream. I'm not angry. I'm not angry now. I'm not angry with Holly now, because that's her path. And strangely, she actually said to a friend years before her passing that she told, unbeknown to me at the time, it was a friend who told me afterwards, when she was doing her paramedic training, she said to a friend, they were having a conversation after doing the training, and she said, what did she say? Something along the line. They were talking about, "Oh, well, can you imagine us being paramedics when we're like 63 carrying people downstairs or something?" And laughing and joking. And Holly said, "No, because I'm not going to be an old lady." And the friend was like, course you are. And Holly was like, I just know I'm not. I'm not going to be an old lady.
Wow.
And her friend was like, don't be ridiculous. But obviously Holly was just like, I won't be an old lady, simple as that. And that was just so matter-of-fact comment that she passed. So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, there's a knowingness, right? I remember Sidra used to do the same. She'd be like, I'm not going to be here. I'm like, and I just used to like, who knows? But Barney, I wouldn't going to, how you approach everything you've been through, make sure you take time out to be proud of you, because that's,
thank you.
Everybody goes through their own things in their own individual way, and it's our journey, as you say. But it's
yeah. I mean, it can be a bit frustrating sometimes when you see other people. Like I say, Holly's family, very different way of dealing with it, and that probably made me more angry actually than Holly leaving. I was just, they got very angry, but then they vented their anger towards me, and that was their grieving. I mean, at the time, it was, it's like I really don't need this. But that was their way of doing it. That's how they dealt with it. Which obviously, you're like, great, thanks guys, that really helped. But we got through it, and we're here now, and the boys see Holly's family and things. So
that's beautiful. Yeah. That's so beautiful. And everyone deals with grief differently. There's no right or wrong way, right?
Yeah,
everybody
absolutely.
Deals with it in their own unique way and deals with it the best way they can.
I don't think you ever know. You don't even know how you're going to deal with it, do you? That's the thing till it happens to you. You're not going to be like, right, when I have to deal with grief, I'm going to be like this and write it down on a piece of paper, because you don't know.
Yeah, and everyone has an opinion, right?
Yeah,
everyone has an opinion on how you should, and who knows? Because you're a unique person that goes through, and there's no right or wrong way. There just is, right? And it's that.
Yeah.
But you're right. I could, I see you focus on your business and kind of let it consume you, and that's a part of it. But I'm curious, how have the boys been? What's their journey been like, and how have they taken the journey that the impact it's had on them?
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of people probably wonder the same thing, and I often sit and think about it, like, how has this long-term affected them? And I see them now, and they're two very happy boys. And I mean, Rufus was only 15 months old, so he really doesn't remember mummy at all. Felix, although he was only 4, just quite frequently mention things we did, like a holiday or somewhere that we went, or we've got some, like Holly's paramedic epaulets, that she had on her shoulder, hanging up somewhere, and he'll maybe comment on, I remember Mum wearing those. I don't know whether he does actually, but he says he does. But yeah, they're doing really well, and we have pictures of Holly up around the house still, because I don't want to be one of those people that just, right, she's gone, that's it, everything's gone, clear the house out. So there's pictures up around the house, and yeah, I mean, it was hard trying to sort of explain to. Well, yeah, at the time I didn't. It was just a case of mummy's gone, and how do you say that? How do you explain that to a 15-month-old and a 4-year-old? It was, I remember telling them when they were both in the bath at the time, and I remember that was possibly one of the worst things I've ever had to do, is to, when they were like sat in the bath saying, when's mummy coming home, and I'm having to say to them, a 15-month-old and a 4-year-old, well, actually, she's not coming home anymore. You're not going to see her again. and I remember being sat on the side of the bath, just in floods of tears, just a thought, and then Felix started crying, and Rufus was just sat in his chair kicking and splashing, and he didn't have a clue what was going on. But I remember Felix started crying, and I was just like, this is just horrible. It's horrible. But no, they're doing really well now. I often kind of think to them, how would they be if Mum was still around, and wonder whether her not having that feminine influence has affected them in any way. But to all intents and purposes, I think people who meet them, they're happy, 2 happy boys, being typical 9 and 12-year-olds, doing well at school, bright and happy. Yeah. So, and I think actually Felix, he's I think Felix is an old soul too.
Mm-hmm.
He's very his mannerisms are very, very. What would you say? You've met him, Stacey. Well, you've
Very
met him.
similar to me, he's a mini you.
Yeah, very much. And I think he was possibly, yeah, I think he was possibly like maybe an older brother or something in a previous life to me, I think. Or maybe an uncle or even a father or something. He's definitely got that. Sometimes I feel like I'm the child and he's the parent sometimes.
Yeah.
And Rufus just doesn't give a damn about anything really.
I mean, it's kind of true though. Kids are meant to be your teachers too, right? They're meant to expand you in that way if you're open to the magic of it. So just
yeah, they definitely expand me.
I
That
mean,
is for sure.
Yeah, and it's your attitude to your kids. It reminds me, my brother had to raise his two sons on his own too but his wife passed away from cancer. It's and I do sometimes wonder too, not having that feminine impact, what kind of impact has it had on them? But it's just as you say, it's their journey, it's their destiny, right? It's
It is, yeah. I mean, I guess they're getting a bit older, and one day, probably when I'm least expecting it and totally unprepared, one or both of them will turn around and go, "What happened to Mum?" And I'll be like, and as they get older, they're going to have more questions, and and I fully expect that, and why not? I mean, of course they will. They will.
At this age, do they know? Do they know what happened to their mum?
No, I don't know. I mean, I sat down with them, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 3 years ago. I sat down with them, and I'd spoken to like a bereavement counselling charity at the time, just to basically ask them, sort of, look, this is the situation, and blah blah blah. Like, what do I say to my kids? Because they're going to ask, and they said, well, obviously as they get older, they're going to start asking different questions. And because they were whatever they were at the time, 6 and 9 or something, they sort of gave me an analogy to use, and said, this is for the age they are. You can explain it to them in this way, etc. And as they get older, then obviously you don't want to go straight in with details of exactly what happened, but you can pitch it at an age appropriate level for them. So we sat down, and I had the conversation with them for half an hour, and they sat and listened intently, and they were good. And so I said, have you got, is there anything that you want to ask about money or anything at all? And Rufus had looked to and went, what's for dinner? I was like, okay, he's fine. All right, that's fine. We're done.
But isn't it interesting seeing the two energies and seeing how, I mean, obviously there's an age difference, but you can feel the energetic difference too, right?
Yeah, definitely.
They're very different from each other.
They are very different. I mean, Rufus is he's very negative, which I find really hard to deal with, which I guess is possibly the university in my... But
and it's also the balance, right? It's the balance that he's maybe been through. So
yeah, but it's interesting, and it's watching them grow, like any parent or whatever. You watch kids grow up, whether they're nieces, nephews, son, daughter, whatever. Just watch them grow up, and it's fascinating. Really, it's fascinating. I think I do an okay job. I think I'm doing an all right job. I like to think I am. So
I'm sure you're doing a great job.
I think you're doing a great job. And I think it's really hard when you are figuring out raising kids and doing it by yourself. Like, it's hard enough to raise children in this world with a partner, but to then abruptly have that partner be gone, and not just like living down the street or living in another state, but gone, is a lot to handle as you're getting to know these two boys too. A lot of change all at one time.
You don't realize, I mean, I watch other people, my cousin and husband, they have 3 kids, and I watch them, and I just, I can, or anyone, a couple with, 2 parents, and I watch them, and I just think, they're like, oh, he never does anything. Wish he'd do more around the house. I'm like, and I watch, and I think, if they weren't here, if they suddenly went you would be shocked at how much they actually do. And it was odd, just the little things that suddenly you have to do that you just took for granted that, oh, wow, I'm going to do everything. Like literally, you might have had a terrible day in the office, whatever, and you come home and then you've got a grumpy, screaming child, baby, whatever, but your other half knows, I'll deal with the kids. You go and take a shower, whatever. You don't have that. You come in and you pick up the kid from daycare or from grandma's or wherever, and the kid might be grumpy and screaming, and it's not just like, I just need 10 minutes. It's like, you can't do that. You haven't got that 10 minutes.
Right.
And that took quite a while. And like I say, I see other people and think, yeah, you maybe think he doesn't do a lot, but actually, if it wasn't there, if it was just you. So, but you get, like I say, you get used to it, and I'm very positive and try and be mum and dad to them both at the same time.
That's really cool. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I couldn't, because everybody's unique, but that's clearly your soul definitely picked a challenging journey, right?
Yeah, I often think that. Yeah, I often think, quite sure.
Do you ever ask your soul?
Yeah, I have actually. I have. I'm like, could I have not just had it a little bit easier? But then I chose this. So I'm like, okay. I guess that's one of the reasons, and one of the things that's kind of helped me through this is that I actually chose this. I chose this life.
Powerful.
So I think another reason not to sort of just throw it all in, and it's just like, I am where I am now because this is where I'm meant to be. I may not like it at the specific moment in time, or I may not like numerous events, things that have happened in my life in the past, but I chose them. So, and it's all been, I chose it to expand. So even the really, really crappy stuff, I even take that as the, like, I chose this. For what, I might not know the reason. I might not like it, but I chose it.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's powerful.
Deal with it, Barney.
We've had that same conversation with so many clients that, what, you as a soul have chosen this life, and I've seen so many people struggle with that because it's like, wait, why would I choose this? And the fact that you've embraced it, that this was your journey, and that's kind of your attitude to life, it's commendable, right? It's that, as you say, you had no choice, right? You had 2 kids to look after. You had to survive, but it's how you deal with the quiet moments and how your attitude towards it that it really shines through. So
yeah, it is for sure.
At the same time as,
and I've actually just started just this
2
year.
kids, you
I
had a lot of
started
business to run.
doing
Oh, you froze there for a second.
What's that?
I said I didn't hear what you just said because your Wi-Fi, I think, struggled for a second.
Oh,
what was that? What did you say?
Yeah, so just this last few months, I started doing a healing course with the Healing Trust based in the UK, and it was something that I can't remember where I came across a book I was reading, and I thought that sounds interesting. Anyway, so I started doing this healing course, which is fascinating and very satisfying. I'm still a student healer at the moment, but yeah, it's something else. I just thought I want to kind of bring in or introduce, I already have, I guess, but sort of a holistic side to my campsite. And we've already done one sort of retreat last month. We're doing another one in December, but the place really lends itself to that. You guys have been, it's a special place. And I just thought, you know what, I've got this opportunity and reach for all these people to come. So I just thought, you know what, this healing course really complements that. And perhaps when I'm a fully fledged healer with my certificate, nice. I can offer that to people too. So kind of adding that string to my bow, which is nice. And it's interesting how people react to healing. And I sort of did a bit of distant healing last night on Stacey's live, and people were just like, wow, they were blown away by it, all commenting, going, wow, I really felt that. And I still have it. I guess I still have this. I kind of struggle a bit to sort of believe it, but
To accept.
yeah, that I'm like, really, am I doing that? And I have this kind of when I do a sort of someone's practicing and then someone's sat in a chair and I'm practicing the healing on them, which we do as part of the training on like a Zoom call with our tutor. And there's been times where my hands are literally burning and tingling. And then the person, you can feel them now. I might have my hands just sort of like on the shoulder or on the heart chakra or whatever it might be, and you can actually sort of see them. Their eyes are closed. They have no idea where your hands are. But they say afterwards, I could literally tell exactly where you were when you're working down the chakra, and you're exactly where you were. And I've had a couple of you had huge releases from it too, which is like, oh wow, like big coughing fit afterwards, and someone else cried for a day, which I wasn't sure if that was a great thing, but it was the tutor.
No, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
it's releasing.
Yeah, so yeah, I just think I don't know. I just feel like it's the right. I feel like I'm on the right path, to go doing this.
I love it.
With my business at Baxby in Yorkshire. Just all sort of feels right.
So let's talk about Baxby a little bit. I'm sure there's people on here wanting to talk about the connection you two found, but I'm saving that. But it's like interesting where people talk about their gifts and kind of we talked a little bit about earlier. It's like, oh my God, I want to find out my purpose. I want to know what it is, and kind of oh my God, is it Reiki? Is it Akashic record reading? Or our gift is unique to our soul. It's our energy, our vibration. But it's like, we've talked about Baxby before and what you've created there and the healing energy and the vibration that's been in your lifetime. We've been in your family for generations. But the healing space that you created, and now knowing that, and I remember when we were working with you on the mentorship that, we talked about your purpose and the healing energy and the vibration that comes with the land that you've created, the glamping site, the camping site. Can you talk more about kind of what you do on there and kind of your discovery of how healing the land is and how maybe that's your purpose to kind of create that healing space?
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt really connected with nature. And so Baxby Manor is just over 100 acres, which for a farm is pretty small, but obviously 100 acres is a large amount of land. It's not.
That feels a lot to me.
Yeah. So I've always had this connection with nature. I always loved being outside. The smells, just the wind, the sun on my face, all these. And I always I'm outside all the time. I'm literally outside probably 75, 80% of the day, whether it's working or even if I'm not working, I'm outside. And my sort of going back a little bit, my parents really saved the farm. My grandparents were in sort of financial strife with it and were literally about to sign on the dotted line to sell it. But my mum and my dad, who at the time were, I think, if they were married at the time, I'm not sure, can't remember. But they could see that this is not, signing on that line, selling Baxby was just not an option to them. So I think my mum, she had a house in York at the time, which is a really nice house. It was before I was born. She sold that basically to save the farm because they just knew that they had to not give up on it. So they lived in a mobile home, static caravan for however long, saved the farm, built a cottage on the farm for my grandparents, and then my parents moved into the farmhouse. And they've done they've done everything from bed and breakfasts to growing tomatoes in polytunnels to all sorts of stuff, raising geese and chickens, and they farmed. My dad literally had all the animals you can imagine. And then he diversified into, again, on land at Baxby, his passion was flying. So he was obsessed with basically being in the air. So he is a flying instructor and set up a flying school on the land and has been doing that ever since. Well, it actually stopped this year. 50 years he'd been doing it. So he thought that was at the age of 75 or 6. He thought that was a good time to 50 years of putting his life in the hands of other people at 2,000, 3,000 feet and having got away with it all this time. He thought probably now is a good time to stop. So there's, both my parents have sacrificed a lot for Baxby and, blood, sweat and tears. So I guess being an only child as well, it kind of naturally came sort of to me. Initially, I felt a bit of it as a bit of a burden, and I just thought it was only me. Well, they sacrificed a lot and worked hard to keep it, and I suppose I better do something. But that's initially how I felt. But then, having travelled and came back home, I had a different perspective on it and was like, you know what, this is actually worth fighting for, saving, whatever. And it is really special. And I mean, it's obviously been there a long time as well, so there's all sorts of history there. And you guys have both seen it and been there and felt it, and it's just a very calming place, and it is just a healing place. And I receive lots of comments and feedback from customers that have stayed at the campsite saying, as soon as you turn off the road and go down the drive, you just kind of go, oh, you can just feel it.
Wow.
And you can, they always say there's no place like home. Well, I mean, that really is the case. I really feel, for me, that is the case. And getting home is just, wherever you've been, it may have just been out to the shops, or you may have even been on holiday, and you don't really want to come home, but there's that feeling of just coming down the drive and just being like, yeah, this is a special place. And my parents as well as myself have always been very sort of eco-conscious as well. Whereas our neighbouring farmers have ripped out hedges and trees to make way for farmland. My mum and dad, before I was born, were planting forests and hedges and laying hedges and creating ponds for wildlife and things, and putting up bat boxes and all sorts of stuff, which I can, continue to do. And so yeah, it's just really nice to be able to have that, not only for other people to come and enjoy, but also for my kids. And whether Felix or Rufus take it on, I don't know. Who knows? I'm not going to be one of those parents that says, you must take this on. If neither of them do, then that's so be it, But it's nice. I feel privileged to be able to offer them the opportunity to do whatever with it after me.
Can you talk a bit more about what's actually on the site? I mean, I know we have a global audience. For anyone in the UK that may want to visit,
yeah.
And obviously you got bored and you had a new project that you started a while ago. So what can people expect, and what are the different options?
So there's a campsite which has got pictures for tents and camper vans, and which is what I first started with, along with three little wooden pods. And I think at the time I had like canvas bell tents as well, which I had for a couple of years, I think, but they were really hard to maintain and look after because they just go green and mouldy, and the great British climate doesn't really do any favours for canvas tents that are up all summer. So I then replaced those with 5 hoglet houses, and I also decided that it would be really cool to build a tree house, as you do. So in 2019, I think it was February 2019 it opened. So started building it in 2018, and the treehouse sleeps 6 people. It's got a secret slide down. I mean, it's literally basically a holiday let. It's basically an Airbnb in the trees, but much nicer.
Beautiful. And
it's got a hot tub out on the veranda looking out towards the moors and the sunsets and things. It's a really, really special place. And yeah, it's booked up solid literally year round, and people just, it's a very special place. That's probably the place I go to when between changeovers, where the people have left and then the cleaners have come in and cleaned. and then there's a little window of normally like about half an hour before the people have arrived. And I sometimes go up there to maybe like the cleaners maybe said, "Oh, there's a bulb gone out, so I'll maybe go and change the bulb or something." But the place is all ready for people to arrive, and the music's playing softly, and the lights are on, and the fire's lit, and I just stand there and go, so nice,
Wow.
so nice. So yeah, and then in 2022, I decided to add some cabins or cabinas, which was a little bit of a journey to the existing camping site. And there's 3 cabinas which are sort of self-contained. They're open all year, so the campsite's open for camping April through to end of October, beginning of November, and then the cabins like the hoglet houses and the cabinas and the treehouse are open all year. So it goes. There's always someone there. Quieter from end of this month. The campsite shuts after the UK half-term holiday at the end of the month, and then
Beautiful.
It's just the cabins. So yeah,
Beautiful.
And there's a fantastic pizza shack as well, isn't there, Stacey?
Oh my gosh, some of the best pizza you'll ever have, ever.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
Did they have sweet corn on the pizza, Stace?
Yes, he did do sweet corn on the pizza, but he has a specialty pizza with prosciutto that is
Nice.
to die for.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And so if anyone's visiting the UK, if anyone's in the UK and wants to kind of experience a magical land, magical space, which feels very ancestral, very healing,
Yeah.
then definitely I'll include the link in the show notes for Baxby Manor, which is in Yorkshire. Do visit.
Yeah, do. Absolutely.
And so there's a part of this journey that I was saving. So the journey that we've kind of had together was, Barney did 2 sets of mentorship with us. Me and Stacey were doing our first major event together in the UK, the Mind Body Spirit Show, and in the UK, which has like 20,000 people, and it's over 5 days, and it's pretty intense. We invited you to attend.
Yes.
And we'd finished working with us, so kind of switch from client to friend. I'm going to let you 2 talk about what happened next. This is my. So what happened? What happened on that journey?
I don't know. We keep asking the same question, really. So yes, you guys were at the Mind Body Spirit Show in London at the end of May, and like you say, you said, "Oh, why don't you come down?" And I was like, "It's end of May. It's a bank holiday. It's like literally the busiest week. It's crazy." I'm like, I really shouldn't go because I did. Anyway, I did. I managed to get staff in place to cover me and blah blah. So I said, "I'm coming down on whatever day it was. Was it the Sunday? Whatever day it was." And I think it was your last day, I think, wasn't it? So Sunday and Monday. And so I came down to London and stayed overnight, and met you guys at the stand. And was it Olympia? No, where was it? Wherever the Man Body Spirit Show was.
Yeah.
Olympia. But yeah, prior to that, Stace, we worked together. Yeah, we worked together twice on the 3 of us at the end of 2022. And then, as Nimesh said, I also joined the group mentorship, which is awesome. And there was 5 of us, was there? Was there 5 of us?
That's 5.
And that was really early spring, I think, the following year. And yeah, it was all professional, wasn't it, Stace? Very professional. We were chatting a little bit about sort of navigating single parenthood and being single, and we were joking about dating and how it is, well, I'm in my 40s. I won't let Stacey say her age. And yeah, we were just sort of saying, "Oh, isn't it just to explain everything and meeting someone and hello, I'm so and so. What do you do?" We just bantered a bit about it, didn't we? And, and basically, we were like, I don't think I've got the time or the energy to put into meeting someone. And you were like, "Yeah, me too." And we were like, "Yeah, it's rubbish, isn't it?" Yeah. And we just that's kind of a bit of banter before
And then
before we met.
we did Mind, Body, Spirit. And then you invited me and Nimesh to come visit Baxby.
Yeah, before you flew back to the US. Yeah,
which we did.
Yeah.
But somehow something blossomed.
Yeah, it was both of us were like,
what is this?
Because there was nothing, was there? We chatted, nothing at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, something was like, oh, just literally all of a sudden. I'm not quite sure what it was. Neither of us really knew what it was. We're a bit like, well, that's not going to work. It's like we're 3,500 miles apart. How is this possibly? So I think both of us were like, no, just literally no. It's not,
Stace definitely had a feeling something. We had 2 days left after a 5-day event, both super tired, and literally, was it 5 hours away? And she was determined for us to come and see you on those 2 days. There was something definitely there.
There was something definitely
vibration.
There was something definitely there, but I definitely wasn't clear that it was something. Like, I knew we needed to go, but it's kind of like when I knew that I needed to be in the UK and I thought it was to study Sidra, and I think it was actually to write my book and to channel our mentorship program. It was kind of like that. Like, I felt a pull to be there, but I didn't know what that pull was. I don't think, well, definitely neither of us did.
Right, so you guys haven't actually said that you're together. So I guess the summary is, and then they kind of peeked around the topic was, when we went to see Barney, there were these guys that felt some sparks, and nothing happened then. But I remember the journey back. I've never seen Stacey that quiet. She was really quiet the whole way back.
Processing, Stacey.
Yeah.
Processing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was, and then yeah, you were in the UK. I think until, I don't know, what was it? Only a couple more days or something. I think. What you say something?
Yeah, and then I headed home.
Yeah,
and then a couple weeks later, you were on a plane to come visit me.
Yeah, which was like totally bizarre. I was like, there's something that we need to figure out here. So I literally booked a flight, and I suddenly discovered a couple of weeks later, completely out of the blue, I was on a plane to Baltimore, which I never thought I would ever visit, really, to be honest. Flying into DC, and I was like, what? I remember thinking, what's going on? Sat on a plane, just like left my kids and with my business, and I was like, what is going on? And yeah, then you've been over to the UK a few times since, and I'm, in case anyone hadn't noticed, and we're trying to work out that the background of Stacey and I looks very similar. We don't just we haven't just both mimicked the same offices backgrounds, but actually we're kind of, yeah.
Can you see us?
Yes, so we're actually.
So anybody watching YouTube hasn't seen you two together at that point. Didn't come on screen, but it's all good.
So yes, I'm here.
But yes, they're in the same location. For those watching on YouTube, and you hadn't figured out.
Yes, we are here. We're together. So yeah, so that was something that was neither of us ever imagined, ever at all. But here we are. So
here we are.
Yeah.
And this is, I guess, the reason I wanted to talk about it was also, you never know what the universe has planned, right? You never know what's around the corner. There was no, I guess if you guys had chosen, would you pick somebody that lives on the other side of the world? Maybe not, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
So
we often say to each other, it'd be so much easier if you found a nice local, American guy that lives down the street, or you found, or I found a local lady that lives in the village. It'd be so much easier, wouldn't it? We're both like, yep.
In the village.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got its challenges, that's for sure. It's hard being apart. It's a long distance.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the soul contrast goes, how does it feel for you guys in terms of, where you're at now?
I mean, for me, it's as unexpected as it was. I think because of the journey that I've been on, and Stacey as well, of which I'm sure your listeners have aware of. I feel that we knew each other so well before this became anything other than a professional relationship that we didn't have to do the whole, oh, what do you do? I do this and and welcome to my crazy life and we'd sort of done all that professionally. So to me, it sort of was like, it just felt that everything, again, I said earlier, everything happens for a reason. And I feel that that's made things so much easier in the fact of finding someone who I love and be with them. And it just all kind of makes sense apart from the 3,500 mile distance. And yeah, that's it just for me, totally. Again, wasn't expecting it in the slightest, but
Stace, how does it feel for you?
I mean, it's powerful. We have to rely completely on communication.
Yeah.
Because we have this physical distance between us for a big portion of our relationship. And so when you are pushed to have that be your only form of doing things, it actually makes your relationship so strong because you're relying completely on that communication and building trust. And so it's been really hard because of the distance, but it also is, I think, a testament to how strong we are that we've been able to do this for as long as we have, and that we keep on working towards being together.
I love it. And for both of you have been through extremes in your recent, but also in your life. And I guess the reason I wanted to mention it was also, the universe does have plans, right? The universe has a way of kind of connecting the dots, and there's no end, right? This is a lifelong journey, and trusting in your journey is a big part of it. But as we come to the end of the episode, and I'm sure we could talk for hours, right? But as we come to the end of the episode, Barney, I'd love for you to talk about what's your self-care, because I know there was some resistance to journaling and things like that along the way, and oracle cards. But what do you do, and what's your advice to our listeners in terms of what your self-care looks like?
So yeah, I was resistant to journaling, mainly because my handwriting is atrocious. So when Stacey suggested her journaling technique to me, I think one of the very first mentorship meetings we had, I was just thought, oh, really? Anyway, I now am on my fifth journal now, I think, and I do go in it does kind of peaks and troughs with my journaling. I will literally journal every day for an hour, and then I'll be like, oh, I've not done it for a little while, or for a couple of weeks or whatever. But I still journal now, and anyone that has considered it, or maybe future clients of yours, when you suggest it, don't dismiss it, because I was completely anti-journaling and not up for it in the slightest. But now it's I think it's a release, and also it's a good way of sort of grounding and just writing. You don't have to you can write anything you want. I think you guys call it brain dumping, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you can do, gratitude journals, affirmations, and other bits in there. But yeah, journaling is a big part of my life. As I mentioned earlier, I'm also doing this healing course, which involves various meditations. I do meditations. I don't do it as often as I would like to, but meditating, but probably the main one for me that is every day without fail is being out in nature. And every morning, walk the dog. Even before I had a dog, I would still go out and I would still walk around the field. I would still go and sit under a tree. And meditate doesn't have to be sat in a chair cross-legged going on. You can just lean against, you can be walking, you can go to the gym and meditate. But I find just literally walking out in nature, even if it's just opening the front door on a really busy day and just feeling the sun on your face, or the rain in England's case, on your face, just for 30 seconds, just little things like that, and just really, being grounded. Being grounded is very important. I think that's the main things really that I do. Just nature's the big one for me.
And finding that magical space, because I know you've got the tree stump that you kind of go to, and it's like anyone that's find somewhere that you find magical.
Yeah,
because I know you talk about going to that tree stump and even talking to Holly, right? That's where you spiritually. So finding that space is important.
Yeah.
And Barney, you've come so far. You've come from connecting with us spiritually to having spiritual events at your place. I mean, that's how cool, right?
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, it's great. It's great it's very satisfying, and job satisfaction when these people come and they just let you know how amazing it is and how special the place is. And the problem is we always focus on the negative things. So you may get 99 5-star reviews, glowing people, then you get one that's not. And humanness in us all goes, yeah, but what about the other 99 amazing things that's happened or been said about the place? But you focus on that one. So I try not to do that anymore. In fact, I got one that wasn't great the other day, didn't I, Stacey? And I was, hasn't. Yeah, I'm like, well, she says, Stacey says, what are you going to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
But I know you've won some awards like Bathroom of the Year. Was it Toilet of the Year? And,
Toilet of the Year.
Yeah. And I remember seeing you on TV too, where they had they were reviewing the 5 glamping sites in the UK. They had to pick the best one. They picked yours. So you've definitely won lots of awards, and there's lots of
it is.
You should be proud for sure.
It's good. It's really good, and I'm proud of what I've created, and like I say, for my kids too. For the boys, and I kind of hope I'm demonstrating and teaching them a good sort of ethos for them.
Nice. So this is one of the longest episodes I think we've had, and obviously we could carry on this conversation just on your spiritual journey for hours. Barney, I just want to say how proud I am of you, just embracing the spiritual journey, embracing your true authentic self, shining your light. And I'm sure Stacey's got a few words to share too.
I'm really proud of you too.
Thanks, babe.
She's like giggling like a little girl. She's like,
no, I know.
I'm thinking some profound, deep words, Stace.
No, I mean when I think about all that you've been through, even now, listening to it, it's like I'm hearing it for the first time again. Like I'm just so honored and privileged to be on this part of the journey with you, and to be like with you in it and see the person that you've become. Even in the time that I've known you, you've shifted and changed so much in such a powerful way, and opened up spiritually. And I just think you're a really amazing person.
Thanks.
And I feel super blessed to have you in my life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. And Barney, you're a great example of what we do. We guide people to shed their programming to truly understand who they are on an authentic level. And I feel, you've got that, right? You understand what your purpose is and with the land, but it doesn't consume you. You understand what your role as a father doesn't consume you, and you just be. I feel like your time in nature in the mornings is a crucial part to allow you to find that base, and you found what works for you. So thank you. Thank you for allowing us to guide you. Look, we could definitely promise anyone that works with us to truly become authentic. Meeting a partner, if that's part of your destiny, who knows, right? So,
absolutely.
So Barney, I'm going to thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing us to guide you in your journey. I'm sure you'll be on this podcast again, sending everyone so much love and light. And Barney, I'm going to hand over to you to close this up.
Thank you so much. And yes, thank you for being part of my journey. It's been very special, very enlightening. And I certainly wouldn't be where I am, who I am today without you guys. And it's been emotional. But thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Sending everyone love and light. Bye for now.
Bye.